My name is Lena Morris, and this story isn't about what you might think when you read the title. It's not scandalous or shocking in the way people expect, but it did change everything about how I saw life, trust, and the people around me. I live in Asheville, North Carolina, a quiet, artistic town nestled in the mountains. I'm 33 years old, divorced, and I run a small flower shop downtown called Petals and Pine. My life used to be predictable. Wake up early, open the shop, greet my regular customers, close up around 6, and head home to my apartment above the store. I liked the rhythm. I liked the control. Until the day a stranger walked in and disrupted that rhythm completely. His name was Aaron Blake. Aaron was a local carpenter who built furniture for boutiques and cafes in town. He was tall, soft-spoken, and had this quiet confidence about him. He came to my shop one morning, asking if I needed help fixing my display shelves, the ones that had started to lean dangerously toward the window. Normally, I hired a handyman through an app, but something about his easy manner made me say yes. He told me he'd seen the shelves while walking by and thought they were beautiful, but looked like they were holding on for dear life. That made me laugh, and just like that, he started showing up every few days, first to fix things, then to help build new displays. What started as business quickly grew into easy friendship. It was early spring when everything changed. The shop was full of color. Tulips, daisies, and lavender filled the air with that sweet, calming scent that only flowers can bring. I was rearranging the front section, bending over to pick up a pot that had rolled under the table, when I realized Aaron was standing right behind me, holding a box of tools. I turned slightly and said, "Careful, the table's loose on that side." But before I could stand up fully, I heard a loud crack. One of the display legs snapped under the weight of the vases, and everything started tipping toward the floor. Without hesitation, Aaron dropped the tools, grabbed the edge of the table, and reached around me to steady it before the glass shattered. The sudden closeness startled me. I could hear his breath, feel his hand brush my shoulder as he balanced the wood. For a split second, time froze. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't anything like that. It was human. He was just there protecting something that mattered to me, without thinking twice. We both laughed nervously once the table was steady again. "That could have been a disaster," he said, exhaling. "Yeah," I replied, still catching my breath. "Thanks for the quick save." He smiled. That small, genuine smile I'd started to recognize. The kind that told you he meant it. But what he did next, that changed everything. Later that day, after he finished repairing the table, Aaron quietly took the old, cracked piece of wood that had broken and began sanding it down. I asked what he was doing. "You see this?" he said, holding up the piece. "It's not useless. It just needs to be reshaped." I watched as he worked carefully, transforming what looked like junk into something new. Within half an hour, he'd carved it into a small wooden plaque with a smooth finish. When he handed it to me, I saw words etched across it. "Broken doesn't mean it's over." I didn't realize it then, but that message would become the turning point of my entire life. That night, I sat in my apartment staring at that plaque. The words hit me harder than I expected. I had been divorced for 2 years, still carrying the weight of betrayal from my ex-husband, Mark. He'd left me for someone else, saying I was too focused on work and hard to connect with. For months after the divorce, I shut everyone out. Friends, family, even myself. I convinced myself I didn't need anyone. But Aaron's simple act of kindness that day cracked something open in me. He didn't know my story, yet his gesture spoke directly to the parts of me that I'd buried. The next day, when he came to finish the shelves, I made us both coffee. We sat on the floor, surrounded by sawdust and petals, talking about life. He told me he'd lost his wife to cancer 3 years earlier. Her name was Sophie. She'd been an artist full of light, he said. She used to paint wildflowers on their kitchen walls. When he talked about her, his voice softened. I could tell he still loved her deeply, even after all that time. You don't really move on. You just learn how to keep walking with the weight. Those words stayed with me. From then on, we started spending more time together, not in the romantic sense, but as two people slowly rediscovering what it meant to trust again. Sometimes he'd help at the shop. Other times we'd just walk through the local market talking about dreams and regrets. For the first time in years, I laughed without forcing it. A few weeks later, a big storm hit Asheville. Strong winds, heavy rain, the kind that makes you double-check every window latch. I stayed late at the shop trying to protect the flowers from the draft. Suddenly, the power went out, and everything went dark. Just as I was about to lock up and leave, I heard a knock at the door. It was Aaron, soaked from head to toe. I was nearby, thought I'd make sure you were okay. That night, we lit candles and sat together while the storm raged outside. The shop felt warm, almost magical. Rain hammered the roof, but inside there was peace. We talked for hours about fear, about grief, about second chances. At one point, he looked around at the candles flickering between the flowers and said, "You know, Lena, you bring beauty into the world every day, even when you can't see it." Something in his tone felt like healing. As weeks turned into months, the shop started to flourish. Aaron built new shelves, counters, and even a small reading nook near the window. He refused to take money for most of it, saying, "Call it community service or therapy." One afternoon, a woman came into the shop holding a small bouquet Aaron had built into a wooden vase. She said, "This was made by your friend, right? He told me every flower here represents someone who's learning to bloom again." I smiled. That was Aaron, quietly helping others without ever needing credit. Later that day, I found him outside fixing a bench by the door. "You're changing this place," I said. He looked up and replied, "No, Lena, you're the one who changed it the moment you decided to open the door again. Not just this shop, but your heart." That night, I finally understood something important. Sometimes healing doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from people who show up when you least expect them, who stand behind you when things are falling apart, not to take advantage, but to help you steady the weight. And that's exactly what Aaron did for me that day, when I bent over to fix that table. He didn't just stop a fall. He stopped me from falling apart even more. The following spring, we opened a small workshop in the back of the shop called Mended Hands. We used reclaimed wood to build custom pieces, planters, frames, benches, and donated part of the proceeds to local families who'd lost someone or gone through hardship. It became more than just a project. It was a symbol of second chances, a reminder that broken things can become beautiful again when handled with care. 2 years later, I still keep that wooden plaque by the counter. Broken doesn't mean it's over.
নদীর ধারে এক গ্রাম। প্রথম অধ্যায়, শুরুর কথা। পদ্মা নদীর ধারে ছোট্ট একটা গ্রাম, নামটা হলো কুসুমপুর। এই গ্রামে বাস করত একটা ছেলে, তার নাম রাকিব। রাকিবের বয়স মাত্র 22 বছর। লেখাপড়ায় ভালো ছিল সে, কিন্তু টাকার অভাবে ঢাকা বিশ্ববিদ্যালয়ে ভর্তি পরীক্ষা দিতে পারেনি। এখন গ্রামের স্কুলে পড়ায়। মাসে বেতন পায় 10,000 টাকা। রাকিবের বাবা মারা গেছেন 3 বছর আগে। মা আছেন, ছোট্ট একটা বোন আছে, নাম মিথিলা। মিথিলার বয়স 15, এইচএসসি পরীক্ষা দেবে আগামী বছর। রাকিবের স্বপ্ন ছিল মিথিলাকে ডাক্তার বানাবে। কিন্তু স্বপ্ন আর বাস্তবের মধ্যে অনেক দূরত্ব। শীতের সকাল, কুয়াশায় ঢাকা গ্রাম। রাকিব স্কুলে যাওয়ার জন্য তৈরি হচ্ছে। মা খাবার দিয়েছে একটা টিফিন বক্সে, ভাত আর ডিম ভাজি। রাকিব সাইকেল নিয়ে বেরিয়ে পড়ল। স্কুল 5 কিলোমিটার দূরে। পথে যেতে যেতে রাকিব ভাবছিল তার জীবনের কথা। এই গ্রামে আর কতদিন থাকবে? ঢাকায় গিয়ে কিছু করা যায় কি না? কিন্তু মা আর মিথিলাকে রেখে কিভাবে যাবে? মনটা খারাপ হয়ে গেল। স্কুলে পৌঁছে দেখল হেড স্যার দাঁড়িয়ে আছেন। হেড স্যার মানিক স্যার, বয়স 50-এর কাছাকাছি। ভালো মানুষ। রাকিবকে অনেক স্নেহ করেন। রাকিব, একটু আমার রুমে এসো, মানিক স্যার বললেন। রাকিব রুমে ঢুকল। মানিক স্যার বললেন, তুমি তো জানো আমাদের স্কুলের অবস্থা ভালো না। সরকারি অনুদান কমে গেছে। আমরা হয়তো তোমার বেতন আর বাড়াতে পারব না। রাকিবের মনটা ভেঙে গেল। কিন্তু সে কিছু বলল না। শুধু মাথা নেড়ে বলল, বুঝতে পারছি স্যার। তবে একটা খবর আছে, মানিক স্যার বললেন। শুনেছি জেলা শহরে একটা এনজিও শিক্ষক খুঁজছে। বেতন ভালো, 15,000 টাকা। তুমি চাইলে আবেদন করতে পারো। রাকিব একটু ভাবল। জেলা শহর মানে প্রায় 30 কিলোমিটার দূরে। রোজ যাওয়া আসা করা মুশকিল। থাকতে হবে সেখানে। স্যার, আমি ভেবে দেখি। রাকিব বলল। ক্লাস শুরু হল। রাকিব বাচ্চাদের বাংলা পড়াচ্ছে। ছোট্ট ছোট্ট মুখ, সবাই মন দিয়ে শুনছে। রাকিব ভাবল, এই বাচ্চাদের ছেড়ে কিভাবে যাবে? স্কুল ছুটির পর রাকিব বাড়ি ফিরল। মা রান্না করছে। মিথিলা পড়াশোনা করছে। রাকিব মাকে বলল এনজিওর কথা। মা চুপ করে রইল কিছুক্ষণ। তারপর বলল, ভাই, তুমি যা ভালো মনে করো তাই করো। আমরা সামলে নেব। কিন্তু রাকিব দেখল মায়ের চোখে পানি। দ্বিতীয় অধ্যায়, নতুন সিদ্ধান্ত। সেই রাতে রাকিব ঘুমাতে পারল না। বারবার একই চিন্তা মাথায় আসছে। কি করবে? এখানে থাকবে নাকি নতুন জায়গায় যাবে? পরদিন শুক্রবার। ছুটির দিন। রাকিব সকালে উঠে নদীর ধারে গেল। পদ্মা নদী। শীতকালে পানি কমে যায়, বালুর চর জেগে ওঠে। রাকিব একটা চরের উপর বসল। দূরে মাছ ধরা নৌকা দেখা যাচ্ছে। রাকিব ছোটবেলার কথা ভাবল। বাবা জীবিত ছিলেন তখন। বাবাও মাছ ধরতেন। একদিন নৌকা উল্টে গিয়ে বাবা ডুবে মারা যান। সেদিন থেকে রাকিবের জীবন বদলে গেল। লেখাপড়া ছেড়ে দিতে হল। মাকে সাহায্য করতে হল। হঠাৎ কেউ পেছন থেকে ডাকল, রাকিব ভাই। রাকিব ফিরে তাকাল। দেখল তার বন্ধু